Have you ever felt like the passion in your relationship is slowly fading, even though the love is still there? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to let daily routines, responsibilities, and stress take over, leaving intimacy on the back burner. Over time, even the most loving relationships can start to feel like mere partnerships in managing life's demands, rather than deep emotional connections. But what if I told you there's a way to reignite that passion and connection no matter how long you've been together? In this video, we dive into the real stories of couples who have rediscovered the emotional and physical intimacy they once had through the power of communication, understanding, and mutual respect. Stay with me until the end because these stories not only offer hope but also practical tips that can transform your relationship. Whether you're looking to strengthen your bond, explore new depths of intimacy, or simply reconnect with your partner, what you learn here could be the key to unlocking a stronger, more passionate relationship. And if you're curious about how embracing openness and exploring intimacy can take your connection to the next level, this video is for you. So don't miss out. Watch until the end to discover how to keep the love alive. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you find this video valuable, you can help me continue spreading these important lessons by liking and sharing it. Alma and Luis, a love that stood the test of time. Alma and Luis had been married for 15 years, a union filled with joy, challenges, and the relentless current of daily life. From the outside, they seemed like the picture of a happy, stable family. They had 3 beautiful children who filled their home with laughter and chaos. Both Alma and Luis held demanding jobs, which provided financial stability, but often left them exhausted at the end of the day. Over the years, their life had become a routine, a cycle of rushed mornings spent getting the kids ready for school, long commutes to work, and evenings consumed by homework, dinner, and bedtime routines. While love was always present, it had become something quietly assumed, a steady but unnoticed undercurrent in the river of their shared responsibilities. Yet, beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary life, Alma felt a growing unease. The quiet realization, drifting apart. At first, she couldn't quite place it, but it gnawed at her. A sense that something essential was slipping away. It wasn't a lack of affection or love. She knew Luis loved her deeply. But the spark that had once defined their relationship, the fiery passion that had drawn them together, now felt distant, like a fading memory of something that once burned so brightly. She missed the way Luis used to look at her with admiration in his eyes. She missed their deep conversations that stretched late into the night, filled with dreams, desires, and fears. Now, most of their discussions revolved around schedules, bills, and the logistics of managing a busy household. Intimacy had become infrequent, not because they didn't care, but because life had simply gotten in the way. One afternoon, while folding laundry, Alma found herself gazing out the window, lost in thought. She remembered the early days of their marriage when Luis would surprise her with handwritten notes, flowers, or spontaneous dates. They used to laugh so easily and get lost in each other's company. Now the weight of their responsibilities felt like a thick blanket, smothering the vibrancy of their once passionate love. Alma couldn't remember the last time they had truly connected, and the thought filled her with a deep, aching sadness. She knew something had to change. Taking the first step, a simple but powerful gesture. The realization hit her with a sudden clarity. If they continued down this path, their marriage would survive, but it would become a shell of what it once was. That terrified her. Alma didn't want to just be roommates, coexisting in the same space without truly seeing or feeling each other. She wanted to feel the pulse of their love again, to reignite the passion and closeness that had once been the foundation of their relationship. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Alma curled up with her phone and stumbled upon an article about relationships. It emphasized the power of open communication, explaining that for many couples, the first step toward rebuilding intimacy was simply talking. The article highlighted the need to reconnect emotionally before physical intimacy could be restored. As she read, Alma felt a stirring of hope. Maybe this was what they needed. Maybe if she could find the courage to share her feelings, Luis would meet her halfway. Maybe they could find their way back to each other. Determined to take action, Alma decided to create a moment that would remind them both of the love they had always shared, but had let slip into the background. She planned a romantic dinner, something simple yet meaningful. She spent the next day shopping for ingredients, carefully selecting food she knew Luis loved. She bought candles and fresh flowers, and even dusted off the bottle of wine they had been saving for a special occasion. Alma didn't know if this small gesture would be enough to fix the growing distance between them, but she had to try. It was a start, and that was all she could hope for. An evening of reconnection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Alma began preparing the meal. The kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of simmering sauces and roasting vegetables. She set the table with their best plates, lighting candles that cast a warm, flickering glow over the room. Her heart pounded with a mix of excitement and nervousness as she arranged the flowers at the center of the table. She wanted everything to be perfect, not in appearance, but in the feeling it would evoke. When Luis arrived home that evening, tired from a long day, he was taken aback by the sight before him. The house was calm, the table beautifully set, and Alma stood in the kitchen with a soft smile on her face. For a moment, he felt the familiar flutter of excitement he used to feel when they first started dating, when every moment together felt like an adventure. As they sat down to dinner, the atmosphere was different, almost palpable in its tenderness. They ate slowly, savoring the food and the moment, exchanging glances that spoke of something deeper than words. Alma knew the conversation she was about to start could either bring them closer or expose the cracks they had been ignoring, but she had to try. A conversation that changed everything. Luis listened, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He hadn't realized how much Alma had been feeling the same things he had. The truth was he had noticed the distance too, but he hadn't known how to bring it up, afraid of what it might mean. "I miss you too," Luis admitted quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "I've felt it too, the space between us, and I hate it. I love you, Alma, but I feel like we've been on autopilot for so long. I don't want that either." What followed was the most open and honest conversation they had had in years. They shared their fears, their frustrations, and their deepest desires. They spoke about the importance of intimacy, not just physical, but emotional. They made a commitment to rediscover each other, to make time for their relationship, to prioritize their love amidst the chaos of life. That night, as they lay in bed, Alma felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. They had taken the first step, and now they were walking side by side once again, hand in hand, toward a future filled with love, passion, and a deep, unshakable connection. A love. Rediscovered love is not merely about the grand gestures or the fleeting moments of passion. It is built in the quiet, everyday choices we make to nurture and sustain a connection. Alma and Luis had learned this lesson through years of trials, distance, and rediscovery. Their love story was not one of dramatic turmoil, but rather a testament to the resilience of a bond that, though tested by time, had the potential to grow stronger through mutual effort and intention. What they shared was emotional, mental, and even spiritual. It was about making each other feel seen, heard, and cherished in every aspect of their shared life. Over the years, life's responsibilities had often drawn them apart, but now they were ready to reclaim what had once made them inseparable. This renewed level of understanding brought them closer, allowing them to see their love as an evolving force rather than something static. That night, with the air between them lighter and filled with a renewed sense of hope, Alma and Luis made a decision. They chose to carve out precious time just for themselves, setting aside the distractions that had so often pulled them apart. They would focus on reconnecting, not just as parents or partners, but as lovers and best friends. A deliberate reconnection. This time together was not rushed or forced. It was tender, deliberate, and filled with intention. Every touch, every glance, and every word carried love and respect. They ensured that both felt comfortable, valued, and cherished in the quiet intimacy of their home. It was in these small moments that they rediscovered what had always been there, an unbreakable bond that simply needed nurturing. By communicating openly and without judgment, they accessed a new depth in their relationship that had previously felt out of reach. There was a profound sense of safety in knowing they could express their needs, desires, and even fears without fear of rejection or misunderstanding. The walls that had slowly built up over the years, formed from unspoken frustrations, missed opportunities, and silent longing, began to crumble. In their place grew a foundation built on trust, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to one another. A journey of renewal. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Alma and Luis found themselves not just restoring what had been lost, but creating something entirely new, something richer, more meaningful. They realized that the key to keeping the spark alive in their marriage wasn't a grand, one-time gesture or a quick fix. It was a continuous, ongoing act of communicating with each other, of maintaining a dialogue that allowed them to evolve together rather than apart. They made it a habit to check in with one another, not just about the logistics of daily life, but about their emotions and intimacy. They learned to express their desires and needs without hesitation, and perhaps more importantly, they learned to listen to each other with empathy and understanding. Each conversation dissolved any lingering sense of isolation or distance. Alma felt a renewed connection to Luis, not just as her husband and the father of their children, but as her partner, her confidant, and her lover. Intimacy for them now meant more than physical acts. It was the emotional connection that blossomed when they opened their hearts to one another. It was a feeling of safety that came with knowing they were truly in this together, and that neither had to bear the weight of life's challenges alone. Lessons in love. Through this journey, Alma and Luis discovered that true intimacy was about creating space for vulnerability, and in turn, fostering a bond that made them feel more united than ever. Their love, once overshadowed by the demands of life, now thrived in the shared moments of quiet tenderness, in deep conversations that made them feel seen and understood, and in the simple, everyday gestures of kindness and affection. They had learned that the spark they once feared had been lost wasn't gone at all. It had simply been waiting for them to nurture it with the care, communication, and mutual respect that would allow it to burn brighter than before. Together, Alma and Luis embarked on a new chapter in their marriage, one marked by growth, deepened connection, and a profound sense of gratitude for the love they had built and rebuilt, stronger than ever. With the renewal of Clara and Javier, from passion to distance. Clara and Javier had been married for a decade. Theirs was a union built on love, laughter, and a connection that once set their souls ablaze. In the beginning, their relationship had been full of excitement, with a spark so palpable that it seemed nothing could dim its light. They were inseparable, sharing dreams and adventures, exploring life's possibilities together. But as the years passed and the responsibilities of adulthood took their toll, that vibrant spark began to flicker. Raising two young children and juggling demanding careers consumed most of their time and energy. The intimacy that had once been the heartbeat of their relationship slowly slipped into the background, unnoticed at first, but eventually it became impossible to ignore. Clara, always reflective by nature, began to feel a deep ache for the closeness they once shared. She missed the way Javier used to look at her with admiration and desire, the way they could communicate without words, simply understanding each other through a glance or a touch. The moments of passion, laughter, and vulnerability that had defined their marriage seemed to have been replaced by the routines of parenthood and the pressures of their careers. She knew that the love between them hadn't disappeared, but the deep connection, the intimacy that made their relationship special, felt distant. The realization and the decision. One quiet afternoon, as Clara watched their children playing in the garden, a wave of nostalgia washed over her. She remembered the early years of their marriage, long nights spent talking about their hopes and fears, stolen kisses in the kitchen, spontaneous weekend getaways where they felt like the only two people in the world. It was in those moments that Clara realized how much she missed, not just the physical intimacy, but the emotional closeness they once had. Determined to reclaim that part of their relationship, Clara began researching ways to revitalize intimacy in a marriage. She read articles, listened to podcasts, and sought advice from friends, hoping to find something that resonated with her. During her search, she came across a book that spoke to her deeply. It emphasized open communication, respect, and understanding as the keys to transforming a relationship. That evening, Clara made a decision. She would talk to Javier, not just about the physical aspect of their relationship, but about the emotional distance she felt growing between them. It was a conversation she had been avoiding, partly out of fear and partly because she wasn't sure how he would respond. But she knew that if they didn't address the issue now, the distance between them would only grow. A conversation of change. After putting the children to bed, Clara found Javier in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light on his face. Sitting beside him, she took a deep breath. "Javier," she began, her voice steady but vulnerable, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our relationship, and I feel like we've drifted apart." Javier, caught off guard, paused. As her words sank in, he realized she was expressing something he too had felt but hadn't been able to articulate. "Clara," he replied gently, "I've noticed it too. I felt that distance, but I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't want to upset you." He reached for her hand. "I miss us too." That night, they didn't just talk. They committed to each other. They promised to prioritize their relationship, to make space for moments of connection amidst the chaos of life. Whether through a simple touch, a kind word, or a shared laugh, they vowed to remember what had brought them together in the first place. Their love had not faded. It had simply been waiting for them to rediscover it. Understanding that intimacy takes time, Clara and Javier knew that rekindling their intimacy was not something that could happen overnight. Years of unspoken feelings, shifting priorities, and the simple exhaustion of daily life had created a gap between them. But they also understood that with patience, effort, and love, they could rediscover the passion and closeness they once had. As the weeks went by, small yet meaningful changes began to take root in their relationship. They made an intentional effort to carve out time for each other, whether it was through a quiet dinner after the children had gone to sleep, or a leisurely Sunday afternoon walk in the park. These moments, seemingly simple, became sacred as they learned to communicate more openly. They began sharing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment, slowly rekindling the intimacy that had once been the foundation of their marriage. Clara felt a renewed connection to Javier, not just as her husband, but as her confidant, her companion, and her partner in every sense of the word. They found joy in the little things again, the way Javier would make her coffee in the morning, the way Clara would reach for his hand as they walked together. Their love, once overshadowed by life's many responsibilities, was now shining with newfound warmth. More than just physical intimacy, it became clear to both of them that intimacy wasn't just about physical closeness, though those moments too became more meaningful and frequent. It was about emotional connection, the feeling of being truly seen and understood by the person they loved most. Clara and Javier realized that the spark they had once feared was gone had not disappeared at all. It had simply been waiting for them to nurture it again. True love, they learned, is not something that fades with time. Instead, it deepens and transforms when cared for with intention, communication, and respect. As they held each other close on a quiet night, they knew that this renewal was not just the start of a new chapter in their marriage. It was the beginning of a love that would continue to evolve, becoming more profound with each passing day. A bold step, prioritizing their relationship. Determined to actively work on their relationship, Clara and Javier made a heartfelt decision to set aside time solely for each other. They wanted to reignite the intimacy they had once cherished so deeply, and they knew that the first step was to step away from their daily obligations. They planned a weekend getaway, a retreat dedicated to them alone, away from work, parenting, and life's usual distractions. Their children would stay with their grandparents, giving them the space to focus on themselves in a way they hadn't done in years. As the weekend approached, Clara felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It had been so long since they had taken this kind of time just for each other, and she wanted to ensure that the experience would bring them closer. Javier, too, felt a quiet anticipation building within him. The thought of reconnecting with Clara on a deeper level filled him with hope. A weekend of reconnection. When they finally arrived at their destination, a cozy cabin nestled in the mountains, a sense of calm washed over them. The crisp air and the quiet surroundings made it feel as though they had stepped into a world of their own, far removed from the pressures of daily life. That first evening, they sat by the fire, sipping wine and engaging in the kind of conversation they hadn't had in years. They spoke not about the kids, work, or household chores, but about themselves, their relationship, and the things that had been left unsaid for too long. Their words were honest, vulnerable, and filled with the longing to reconnect. Slowly, they began to peel back the layers of routine that had built up between them. The next day, after a long hike through the woods, they shared a candle-lit dinner at a small table by the window. The flickering flames cast soft shadows across their faces, and in this intimate setting, Clara felt a surge of courage. Looking across the table at Javier, her heart beat faster as she asked him a question that had been on her mind for some time. "Javier," she began softly, "what is something you've always wanted to try in our intimacy?" Javier, momentarily taken aback, paused. He had never been one to openly discuss such things, often feeling hesitant or unsure about expressing his deeper desires. But Clara's gentle tone reassured him, making him feel safe to answer honestly. After a moment of reflection, he confessed, "I've always wanted to feel more physically and emotionally connected to you, but I've never felt comfortable bringing it up. I guess I worried that you might think it was strange or that maybe I wasn't satisfied." Clara smiled softly and reached across the table to take his hand. "I want that too," she said warmly. "I want us to be able to talk about these things and explore them together. As long as we both feel respected and comfortable, I'm open to anything that helps us feel closer." Breaking down barriers. That night, in the soft glow of candlelight, Clara and Javier allowed themselves to be vulnerable in ways they hadn't been in years. They spoke about their desires, their fears, and the things they had always wanted to explore but had been too shy or afraid to discuss. The trust between them deepened as they realized how liberating it was to speak openly without fear of judgment or rejection. With patience, tenderness, and curiosity, they began to explore new forms of intimacy, both physical and emotional, that they had not experienced before. In those quiet moments together, they discovered that intimacy was about far more than the physical act itself. It was about feeling understood, cherished, and truly seen by one another. It was about being fully present in the moment, appreciating the depth of their love without the distractions of daily life. Every touch, every whisper, and every shared glance became a testament to the strength of their bond and the love that had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered, carrying the renewal forward. When the weekend came to an end and they returned home, Clara and Javier felt a renewed sense of connection. They had created a space for themselves to grow closer, not just for those few days, but in their everyday lives moving forward. They committed to each other that they would continue dedicating time to their relationship no matter how busy life became. They promised to communicate openly about their desires and needs, knowing that the foundation of their renewed intimacy was built on trust, respect, and understanding. They also agreed to prioritize regular date nights and simple, meaningful moments of connection, even if it was just a quiet evening at home or a walk around the neighborhood. A love that continues to evolve. As the months passed, Clara and Javier's relationship blossomed in ways they hadn't imagined possible. The spark they once feared had faded was now burning brighter than ever, fueled by the deep emotional connection they had cultivated through open and honest communication. They realized that intimacy wasn't just about physical closeness. It was about being emotionally available for one another, about listening, understanding, and growing together. Their love, now stronger and more resilient, was grounded in the knowledge that they could face any challenge as long as they remained committed to nurturing their relationship. The transformation in their marriage was undeniable. They had gone from feeling disconnected and distant to experiencing a bond rich with passion, tenderness, and unwavering respect. The lesson of a lifetime, Clara and Javier learned that true intimacy is not a destination but a journey, a continuous, evolving process that requires effort, patience, and a willingness to change. By prioritizing their relationship, by taking the time to communicate and explore their desires, they created a love that was not only enduring, but endlessly fulfilling. As they continued on this path together, they knew that their connection would only grow deeper, their spark burning ever brighter with each passing day.